Welcome back to the table. I'm your host today, Alexis J. Soto. I am joined by Mr. Peter Martinez, our lovely showrunner on this beautiful program podcast, a show where we come to the table and we exchange a film that the other has not seen before. Obviously, this is October. We're continuing our horror-themed month as Peter has coined the Ghost-Tober Boo-Tacular. Yes, that's an original invention name by Peter Martinez.
Sure.
So, the last few weeks, we have covered such honored classics like Poltergeist and The Sixth Sense. And this is the finale of this month for our Ghost-Tober Boo-Tacular. And this film, I'm told, is not as revered, or at least the notoriety is not there with this movie, and perhaps is a little more hidden, more of a hidden gem than the other two movies. The movie we're talking about today is The Orphanage, directed by J.A. Bayona and produced by Guillermo del Torro. It is a Mexican film, Spanish language film. Peter, want to tell us more?
Yes. El Orfanato. Did I say it right?
Yes.
Awesome. Directed by J.A. Bayona, who is known for directing the Academy Award-winning Jurassic World Revenge of the Dino Saber. I don't remember what it was called.
Fallen Kingdom.
Fallen Kingdom, that one. A tale of love, a story of horror. A woman brings her family back to her childhood home, which used to be an orphanage, intent on reopening it. Before long, her son starts to communicate with a new invisible friend. Yes, this came out in 2007. Of course, the name that attracted me to it is this name that would attract anyone to it, which is Guillermo del Toro, who helped produce it, get it a bigger budget, and get it made. The script was actually written back in 1996, and it wasn't... It didn't come into fruition until 2007. That's pretty crazy. Yeah, I remember watching this film when I was a lot younger, and it's really good. Like, it's a really, really good ghost film. I think it obviously did get good reviews. But it's a smaller, not as well-known film. It's not a film that's... Whenever I hear about ghost films or horror films or any of that, it's not a film that's usually thrown out there. I mean, you didn't hear about it before I recommended it to you. Nope. So yeah, this is a film I really, really loved. I thought it was really good. It's the exact kind of horror I love, especially with ghosts. There's a lot of great things I can say about it, but I'll wait till we dive into it. How did you feel about The Orphanage?
I want to commend you on a really amazing... First of all, I don't know if this may be the last to the table that we're doing in 2020. Obviously, with this show and what we've wanted to do was to make it more of a seasonal offering, and I think we've done that. We didn't get to all that we wanted to do this year so far, and we can have this discussion at the end of the episode, but I wanted to commend you because I think you're doing, the best job of the programming and then also the kind of movies that you're picking to go with the themes that you've created. And I have to say, there has not been a single movie that you've had me see this year that I don't, except for maybe, well, I don't know. I didn't hate anyone, that's for sure. I wasn't so...
What's the one you released hot on?
Maybe Legacy. Tron Legacy.
Oh, whoa, okay. But yeah, that was more of... That has less to do with I felt you would love the film and more of just this discussion on this weird franchise.
Mm-hmm. No, but I mean, of course, I loved the political dystopia month, and man, that has to be the crazy... The first episode I think we did, or one of the first ones, was V for Vendetta. Little did we know it was a preview of 2020, literally by the fucking script. So, and of course, the year has yet to be over, so we'll know how accurate it was until the very end of it.
We'll see what blows up.
Right. Needless to say, I've been very grateful to be able to have a curated a list of movies, and I've loved a lot of these beyond, I think, imagination, especially this month, like Poltergeist and then The Sixth Sense, which, I mean, it's hilarious again how I've missed these movies, but hey, everyone's first time doesn't come at the same time. That's right.
Would you describe all these films as Boo-Tacular?
The ones for October, yes. Well, maybe even the ones for Political Dystopia Month can be Boo-Tacular as well. That is to say, this movie was fucking great. It was so good. It is obviously a smaller movie. You can tell, and this is not a criticism. It didn't affect the quality of the movie at all, but you can tell it's smaller budget. It's a smaller scale story. But again, I think that was part of what the intention was. And I guess perhaps because it is a Spanish language movie, it isn't in the consciousness in where we reside in, which is America, or at least the American film circuit. It's just not prevalent or remembered as anymore. It's fallen completely to obscurity, which is why I've never heard of it. Whereas movies like Poltergeist and Sixth Sense, while I've never seen them, I've been aware of them practically for years and years and years.
Oh yeah, they're huge.
So I think, yeah. So I mean, there is that distinction. This is one of those ones where it's almost hard to, I think, really decipher the kind of feel. I mean, it is a great horror film in the sense that there are some amazing moments in here where you really are spooked. You have some crazy, really creepy masks that are used. And then moments that just kind of come out of nowhere where you're like, what the fuck just happened? As any great horror movie has. But it is the kind of stuff that you and I do love in horror, not just in the sense that it features a supernatural element in of a ghost, but it is grounded very much in this very emotional family story. The characters in this are just so human. And it's one of those instances, and it helps that, at least for most of these actors I've never seen before, but they come across less like actors and more like real people. This movie was very engrossing, I think, with that connection, particularly with the mother and the son. And so all the moments with them really work and pop, and then when it gets to where it's going, it really just kind of like, wow, I didn't see where that... It also is one of those films where I just didn't see where that twist was, I guess, if you want to call it a twist.
All three of the films had twists.
Yeah. But it was also the kind of ending that I like. That shouldn't surprise you. I think a lot of the movies
Everyone
that I love...
did.
Well, that's not exactly what I was saying. I know you weren't suggesting that. No. It is... I don't think it's the ending you expect if you're watching a lot of this movie. I didn't have a problem with it. I'll say that. I thought it was beautiful and touching. And that... Yeah. I again, it's hard to have a conversation about horror films and saying that it's amazing, and yet, if you're being asked, was I scared? No. I was creeped out, and there were moments where it was like... I think for me, the moment where I was most scared was not one that would be categorized as a stereotypical horror movie scare, but one true moment of horror. I think the revelation toward the end was like, oh my God, those chills down my spine. Anyway, I loved it. That's clear.
What's so interesting about ghost stories is ghosts are us, right? Like they're humans. Their wants, their needs, everything about them is human. It's just sort of this like other plane of existence. With every other, I don't know, like scary type of movie, like zombies, they were human, but now they're just monsters. With zombie movies, with monster movies, they're not... Maybe there's sympathetic aspects to them, but they're not humans. Slashers, despite looking like humans, they're the furthest things from them. You know, ghosts are the only ones where it's their wants and their needs are so unbelievably human, and the terror kind of comes from real human terror. You know what I mean? Real life issues such as, you know, either maybe a broken heart, maybe abuse, maybe lost love, you know, all these things, unfinished business, as they say. So ghost stories just have the ability to tell these very interesting human stories, and I think you've seen that. Well, maybe not with Poltergeist. Poltergeist is just having fun, but you see that with like Doctor Sleep, The Shining,
Hill House,
Blind Manor, Blind Manor,
Sixth Sense,
The Sixth Sense. You absolutely see that with all these others, and with this one, it's very much a story of. It's a love story. to quote Blind Manor, it's not a ghost story. It's a love story.
Love story.
But it's the love between a mother and her child. And this.
By the way, go watch Blind Manor on Netflix.
Yeah, go watch it. Keep it in
support all you can.
Keep it in the one spot of the top 10.
Number one spot.
Mm-hmm. It's good. I love that this story is about exploring this complicated issue of family, of the love between a mother and a son, the fleeting time between family. And it does it while wrapped up not only in a spooky ghost story, but an interesting mystery at the same time.
Yeah,
and of course, I think most ghost movies have that mystery of like, what is going on? Who is the ghost? What is the ghost?
Right.
But I found this one genuinely intriguing. Because you have that issue with the boy. Who is the boy? What happened to the boy? You have the social worker that comes early on. And then you think like, oh, hey, is this a social worker? But then, she's out there they find her in the den with a shovel, and you're like, wait, what the fuck's going on? And then it just leads to one thing to another. All of that's really well done.
Yeah.
But let me get the actress's name, because I do not know it. Gotta pull up to Letterboxd, our official sponsors. Belen Ruda as Laura. She was great because the movie really rested on her and her emotional resilience in the face of something very unspeakable for a mother to have to go through, which is the disappearance of her son, and just kind of what led to that. The disappearance of her son.
She carried the movie.
Yeah.
It's almost comparable to Toni Collette in Hereditary. In terms of like the importance of that performance for the success of this movie. She was outstanding.
I 100% agree. She was great. And just the tone and the mystery, not the mystery, but there's this sort of melancholy tone from the very beginning.
Yeah.
Just to the whole affair, the whole film. And there's little things here and there, hints dropped to where like, well, maybe the melancholy tone is more human than ghost-like, because you understand early on that the kid is sick. He's got AIDS. And I think this is supposed to take place... I don't think it takes place... Does it take place in 2007?
I didn't have an impression that this was a period piece.
Okay.
I would assume it took place present day, and at that time it would be 2007.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, because I think by 2007, AIDS wasn't necessarily a death sentence. But I
don't believe it was what it was, right? I'm going to assume there was a turning... Well, I don't know The history of this, but wasn't there a turning point? I assume well before we were. Well, maybe it came when we were born. Around that time when there was a turning point. But I think I want to say by the late 2000s, it was no longer a death sentence. Okay. That's for sure.
Because the way they spoke about it kind of seemed that way. Like they very much kept his life sheltered. They didn't let him know that he had that disease, and I don't believe they didn't even tell him that he was adopted.
No, they didn't tell him that. It was revealed. I think the ghost boy told him.
Yeah,
on the
fucking
movie.
Snitch.
I know, right? But it wasn't my impression that it was a foregone conclusion that he would die from this. It seemed to me like there maybe, but it didn't seem at the moment that it was for sure going to kill him. Mm-hmm. At least to me.
Yeah.
Now, to be clear, I wasn't watching with subtitles, so I kind of just...
Oh.
I didn't have subtitles.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mexican so I don't have flexing over here.
No, the version of the movie that I was watching did not feature them. So I didn't have the option to turn them on. If they were there, I would have, to be 100% clear. Mm-hmm. So, but I knew that he was, obviously, you watched the movie. But yeah, I think I got most of it.
Yeah. But like the dynamics they set up at the beginning are very interesting, right? Because like she herself was an orphan. Mm-hmm. So you definitely have that like... She wants that familial connection pretty much. And she very much cares about children. Because she was obviously in that spot. And you have a relationship with her husband that is very, I think, well done. Especially as she kind of deteriorates throughout the rest of the film. Yeah. And him is very much understandably going like... maybe let's bring it down a notch. But it also, how can you tell her, who's lost her kid, like, hey, take a chill pill, so he's kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place kind of thing. And then of course you could tell how loving she is with her son and the way they sort of are sheltering him because of his disease. To me, it's all very good setup. And then, of course, you got the creepy house. That's when we get to the creepy house for the orphanage.
A lot of horror movies done with creepy houses. I have to say, though, and I've seen a lot of them, obviously, in the past month, the past year and a half, and somehow they don't get old. You think that they would get old.
I love creepy houses.
I know, right?
My dream would to be live in a giant, lavish, creepy, fucking old house.
I don't know if dream would be. I just keep
the dream.
Well, I look at this house and I'm like, I would never want to live here. Fuck you.
I'd love it. Out of here. I'd love to.
I feel like, especially like looking at the houses here, and then also like Blind Manor, like you're fucking asking to be haunted. Okay, like get out of here.
Don't you just on cold, rainy nights want to be walking down the hall with the candle, No, I don't want to do that at all. No, I'd rather be in a beachfront cottage. Okay. We're very different then, because I to me that is the dream.
I like my home to be warm and inviting, not cold and scary.
I'll put it this way. I'd want it to be known as a manor, not a house. The manor. Of course, that's, if you win the lottery type shit. Well, I was going to ask you real quick about how you felt of the direction by J.A. Bayona. Because if you remember back when we were reviewing
Fallen Kingdom,
thank you. I fucking hate that film.
Everyone does.
Back when we were reviewing Fallen Kingdom, I had said
it's been 2 years. Yeah, it's been 2 years.
I remember going the director's good. He has done good stuff. I don't think I ever brought up The Orphanage, but I was like, he's good. And there's a lot of this film direction wise that's pretty good. As much as I hate the film, there's some things here where it's like, okay. And to me, it's mostly the script.
Yeah, I recall having that conversation with you. I was going to bring this up, but you're doing it now.
Yeah.
It was clear to me I knew that J.A. Bayona was doing the movie. I don't believe I was aware of what he did before, but walking out of the movie, I was not blaming him at all for this. I think the movie was directed well for what it was. I think it was clear where the movie just completely shit the bed was Colin Trevorrow's script. That was it. I mean, there wasn't anything technically wrong with Chris Pratt or Bryce Dallas Howard, except for their whatever chemistry they had in the first movie did not come back for this movie. There was something off about, maybe they were just, they were not at their usual, I think, level as actors. But that being said, it didn't matter because the script was just crap. It was an amalgamation of all the Jurassic Park movies put together. It was so lazily done. It ended up, Kyle, coined it best when he said that the last act was like Scooby-Doo. It was the script.
How do you make Scooby-Doo lame?
I know. But the scenes were directed well. Mm-hmm. It was staged well. Clearly it wasn't the director. You can't do nothing to him. You can't put lipstick on that pig of a script. Let's be real.
Yeah, I would agree with that too. Because I mean, this film clearly shows some, I think, grade A talent. I think it's directed very well.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed the creepy atmosphere that I don't think ever overcomes the story. You know what I mean? They work so well in
it also is just, it looks so beautiful. But the scenery, while being beautiful, as you were saying, does add into the creepy atmosphere of it. By the way, Peter is trying to get his cat out of the way, so if you hear the microphone,
it's not my fault. Side. She's a monster.
He has a cat that he has to repeatedly get out of the way, otherwise she'll get tangled up in the wires, because she has a wire fetish, apparently. All that cat. But the scenery is beautiful, but also beautifully creepy. We have obviously the house is close to the shore, the beach itself, that cave.
Oh, the cave.
And that's where it all starts, when he's seeing things, and then they all, oh my goodness.
When he's leaving the shells, oh.
When I saw that, this is me, like, when I saw that moment, and this is early on in the movie, obviously. If I were, like, let's say one of the parents, and I saw him doing that, I would immediately tell him to fucking stop and realize there was something fucked up going on here. Because you don't just do that for no reason, right? Like,
you throw the kid in the water.
That's weird. Well, I wouldn't do that, but I'd be like, hey, don't do that. Why? Who's following us?
But then
it's creepy.
The next morning, when all the shells are like in a heap pile on the front door, it's like, oh, fuck that. You fucking kid.
Again, these are moments where, like, I guess this is just a general thing when you watch horror movies, regardless of the quality that they end up being. But it's one of those situations where, like, you want to be cautious of how much you're inserting yourself and your, like, perspective and your identity into the movie, and not wanting to criticize it. And I'm not doing that, but it's one of those things as audience members that, like, you are really being given a lot of red flags here. Like, a lot of red flags. And something is not adding up.
Yeah.
Like, pay fucking attention. Like, those things you just said, that's enough.
To be fair, I think the mother noticed it.
Well,
right?
Yeah.
Like, she's like, you're acting weird, kid. Like, I don't...
There's also mysterious, like, and maybe I was wondering if it was the speakers. There's something wrong with it when I was watching the movie, but then I realized it was obviously on purpose. But there's every time we're in the house, there's like a distant noise, like something making noise.
That wasn't in the movie, Alexis.
No?
What were you hearing?
Oh. Okay. Don't creep me the fuck out right now. That was in the movie.
Sure. If you say so.
Somebody was banging on the walls, to be clear. That's the noise I was referring to.
Yeah. I mean, they make that very clear in that one scene, but then, yeah, there are other moments. God. Like, I don't... A part of me doesn't want to just go into the whole ending, but then a part of me is like,
well, we can go through it, I guess, chronologically, how
Mhm.
things are progressing. So, like, we're told almost immediately this imaginary friend or friends, as he claims, and he
oh
keeps
my God.
talking about them.
When he showed up at the house with the fucking mask,
my
oh God, I was about ready to punt that kid. Like if he came at me with that mask, I'd be like, no, 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 no.
No, it was fucking creepy. And then, of course, it led to the confrontation between him and the mom, Laura. And it was so creepy how he was breathing and everything from a distance. And then you just know that's not her son. And he kept going closer and closer and closer. And then he fucking pushed her ass and then slammed the door to break her fingers.
That's the thing. The first time watching it, my thought was like, that's not him. Like, at all.
You think it was him?
Looking back at the ending, I do think that was him.
Really? So, okay, so let me make sure we're on the same page here. Because watching it in that moment, I thought we were looking at, what's his name? Tomas.
Yeah,
the ghost kid.
The ghost kid, yeah. That's what I thought,
You're saying it was Simone, her son, that was in the actual mask and fucking pushed her.
Yes.
Really?
I think the kid was, throwing just being a shit, right? Like a tantrum. He was pissed off, and I don't think he realized, like, meant to hurt her in that way. But he did mean I think to just like lock her up in there, but I don't think he meant to like break her fingers and fuck her up like that. At least that's what I got after the ending happened. My assumption was like, oh, everything that we saw technically wasn't, not everything obviously, but those early moments with the mask and all that going on, a lot of it wasn't paranormal. It was just the kid.
I guess to back it up, what you're saying, how would a ghost push her?
Yeah. Well, because also, I don't think Simone is shown to be... No, Tomas. I don't think Tomas is shown to be...
malevolent.
Yeah.
Oh, or malice in any way. Like, he's just a kid that was... he's just a kid.
A scared kid.
Yeah.
So, yeah, when I see it, I see that as that was.
Okay. That could be it. And he was pissed, and I think that does make sense, because immediately thereafter, well, he disappears.
He disappears.
He disappears.
And paranormal shit starts happening around the house. And I love how there's, you have that night, where they hear banging on the walls. There's spooky shit going on. But then right after, they cut to 6 months later. And she's just sort of like, she's at like that support group. And I love the line where she's like, my kid didn't die. He was fucking taken. Because in that moment, you understand she's on a mission.
Yeah.
She has, and not only is she on a mission, she 100% believes, like, in this ghost shit, She's that fucking...
She's been exposed to too much to not, I think, come to that conclusion. I think I would be in her corner in the same way. Like, I think that's clearly what this is.
Yeah.
And the police aren't getting anywhere. I mean, the police do, I think, discover the woman that came to the house.
Well, that leads to all the interesting mystery, right? Like,
right,
where you go like, oh no, she wasn't actually a social worker. She actually used to work there. And then that leads to her... I can't remember if they discover she was Tomas's mother before or after she gets fucking ran over. Which, that one was just crazy.
Couple of things on that. I want to say when we're informed that that woman used to work at the house, I want to say that that's when we're told that Tomas was her son,
Yes.
which was very creepy, very very fucking creepy. Um, her getting hit by a truck was out of nowhere. I was like, what the fuck? And I was thinking, was this an accident? Was this like premeditated? What happened here? Was she really there? Was she alive? I mean, there was just a bunch of questions because we're watching a supernatural movie, but no, I guess she really just get hit by a truck.
She just got hit. And then they show you like, ugh.
Yeah, they show you the. Yeah, it was unpleasant to look at that.
Yeah, no, it's bad. But everything again, there's certain things in horror movies that are just so beyond cliches at this point. But fuck, do they work on me? And I enjoy them. And when they brought in the seance, the medium, the seance to try and reach the ghosts and the kids, because I think the story goes they believe that, well, not they believe that it did happen. Hello?
No, I'm here.
Okay. I just want to make sure.
No, it froze. Continue. Go ahead.
Would they
the seance?
Well, before that, would they discover? Oh no! It was during the seance because it was the kids. Because in her mind, either Tomas or the kids, they took her son, right? And you have that. I think it worked. It was so effective and it works so well because you don't see anything. All you have is the medium, saying what she sees. And she's like, "Oh, it's children, they're crying."
Yeah.
And like the way it was shot where you don't see anything, all you have is her describing what is going on. I think that works so effectively, and that's where those scenes like that, again, in like every fucking horror movie, like ghost horror movie, they get me. They get me every time.
They really work. Yeah.
And this one I think was very effective. Yeah.
Continue.
Oh, I mean, that was...
Oh, yeah. No, I agree with you. They were very effective, and I'm not sure if there'll be a point where it'll stop being effective. I guess what was interesting is I'm not sure how usual this is, but like, I don't know, that seemed to pretty much confirm the existence of supernatural beings at the place, and then they were kicked out. It's like the anti-poltergeist were like, okay, you can fuck off now. We got it from here. Okay. Because the dad just wants to get the fuck out of there, honestly. He's just done.
And I that dynamic to me is interesting too, because he obviously loves their son, and he obviously loves his wife. But he's sort of being the normal human being here, right? And it's like, it's been 6 months. It's difficult for him to take, right? And at the same time, his wife is just kind of pulling back and spiraling further and further and further into this ghost shit.
It is addressed very early in the movie. I guess this is a hint. He's not a religious person, and so there's an implication that he just doesn't believe in these things to begin with. So
I feel like he can only humor it so far and for so long,
right?
Especially because it hurts him too, and he feels he's losing his wife to this craziness. But it's so great when she... Was it during this or after where she fucking discovers the bodies of the kids?
It was after, I think. It was after.
Because that's where she puts two and two together, that she poisoned the kids. And like the whole story is, Tomas, the kid with the bag on his head, was her son, and he had physical deformities, and he was sort of kept away from all the other kids at the orphanage, and he lived in this sort of place under the stairs. That's where he stayed. And when the kids went to the beach, to that cave, they stole his mask, and he was all shy and afraid, and he didn't want to show his face. And because of that, he never left the cave. And when high tide came, he drowned. And that, of course, made his mother go crazy. And again, that sort of connection, a mother and their son, and sort of the love between them, and what drives that, and what the things it drives you to do.
No, she fucking got hers. She was like, I'm killing her. And she killed them.
Fuck these kids.
These are small children, and she poisoned them with berries.
She was a part of that group, that friends. She got lucky. She got adopted out, I think, right before all that shit happened. But if she hadn't been, she'd be
Laura.
dead with them. She'd be ghosts along with the rest of them.
Yeah. Yeah. Dead. Now, that's a moment, especially that sequence in which she discovers the bodies. That's a moment of absolute, I don't want to say gore, but just disgust, because she discovers what it was.
No.
Or the location specifically that the pretend woman social worker came in, and she was making noise.
Felt that they would they would be discovered.
I wondered to what end.
Because she bought
was that woman
the house, and she was
going
to reopen it.
Like, no one would have found those bodies.
Laura.
So why was she banging on it?
Worried
and trying
that
to
the
get
bodies
it
would be discovered, and then that's why she was snooping around, and then ultimately tried to remove the bodies, I think. Because you remember when they found her with the shovel? She was going to try and remove them. Didn't fucking work out in her favor, but... Eventually, you don't know, right? Like, if you hid some kids' bodies in a house and someone moved in, you'd probably get pretty fucking paranoid. Like, fuck, they're going to find them. They're going to find the bodies.
But it seems unlikely, though,
I think
that they would have been discovered.
Made sense that she would react that way.
You don't know. Yeah. You're right. Well, back to the scene where Laura finds him. It takes a while, I think, for me to click, because she gets a bag and nothing but dust comes out, and then she gets a couple more bags and then more dust comes out, and then I'm thinking, oh no, you're not doing this. Then she finds Sure enough, she finds a fragment of the
dead
skull.
Kids is always a bit
and
morbid.
Then, she has nothing but dead kids on her.
Just a tiny bit.
Or the remnants of dead kids on her. Their bodies have all turned to dust.
Her next move was the thing that made me just go oh, honest. Fuck. Oh, shit. Oh, fuck.
Pretty
no. Yeah. Which was, I think she told her husband, okay, you're right. We need to move on. Yeah, and basically just move the fuck out of the house. He wants out. And he's just been yelling at her this whole time, this isn't good. We just need to leave. And then she's like, okay, just, leave me this one night and I'll catch up with you tomorrow. But then her plan to just sort of reach the kids is to just completely bring it back to the 1970s orphanage. She dresses up as the way that the maids did. She got all the old beds and stuff, And I don't know why, but I just found it so creepy. Like,
It was. I'm getting chills recalling that moment. It was incredibly unsettling. It was unsettling. When I realized she's basically recreating everything from those days. And I think I said
and
out
she's
loud,
like talking to them,
this is
like,
so fucked up. Like, holy
just trying
shit.
to get
Because like even like
them,
especially when
the
like she
ghosts
settles
to,
down on the dinner
react.
table and she has
And then she finally does the thing that
in the
makes
place of
the ghost children
kids.
come out.
It is
Which, oh god, again, I don't.
I know. It was
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But it's also set up
that
earlier. Like,
sequence of
that
the
was a
camera
game they would
panning
play,
back and forth.
together
That was
as
a great
kids.
reveal, and it was,
Mhm.
and especially since
And
like
again, it's this innocent
dark,
thing that obviously
but you see
children
the
would want
bodies
to
there,
do
right?
and
When
play,
the children
and they
come
are
up and you're
children.
like, oh,
But the fact
it's
that they're
one of those
ghosts, just
EBGB
like,
moments, you know.
Get the, I don't want to play shit with you. That's so creepy. And yeah, the way it's
I think
filmed,
it was the
where
first
she's
scene
against
of the
the
movie.
wall, and then I can't remember. It's like she does the knocking, and then she'll
Right.
turn around, and then the first time you see like one little shadow, like towards the entrance, and then she like turns back, does the knocking, turns back around. There's 3 of them now, and they're a little bit closer.
She knocks 3 times, and then she looks over.
No. And then it finally, like, boom, one of them touches her. Because I think that's the game, right? Like, you get close enough to touch her, and then you have to run and hide. Probably like a play on hide and seek or whatever.
I know. I was.
But again, there's not many like scares within this film. I don't think there's ever like a moment. Yeah, now to think of it, I think this is the one horror movie where I don't think there's a single scare. Like, like where it's just like, wow, boo. Or like, this is specifically meant to jump out you and scare you, and everything is just sort of creepy. And it like goes from like this light level of creepy, like the seashells, to the high level of creepy, like the seance and the fucking knocking game. But nothing is ever in your face about it. It's just this overlying tone that may fluctuate up and down in the creepy scale, but it's just always there.
Yeah.
It's really good, and it's really well done. I love it. But that, of course, leads to the reveal of the film, which is just... That one probably threw you for a loop, huh? Like, that's...
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was...
But what's crazy to me, right, is there's such a build-up throughout the film, right?
It was
with
so
the
fucking sad.
And then the kid, because
what else
we
do
talk
you
about
say
like
to
the
that?
creepy kid, and you're like, oh fuck, that's not Simon or Simon, that's not him. And then just right before, you have the seance where it's like, okay, there are ghosts and they do want something or need something. And then right before that, you have the confirmation of these ghosts existing. You visually see them.
Right.
And then, so you're set up for throughout the entire film, there's a gradual buildup to the reason behind everything being supernatural, right? Like, you have no reason not to believe it's supernatural.
Yeah.
And then for the reveal to be not that at all, and much sadder, it's just such a I don't whiplash. Like, it's crazy. Mm-hmm.
Kind of it was a gut punch for me. It was a gut punch because like you're waiting for the reveal of what the disappearance of Simon to be related
And
because of the supernatural
on the
happenings.
surface,
And
right?
the
You
whole
should
film, you're
probably
convinced the culprits are
have
these kids,
expected
and that they took Simon away.
because 6 months have gone by.
It turns out that's not
Even
what
if-
happened.
9, even the ghost did take him. I mean, how would he have survived that long? But it's heartbreaking in the way they do it, because
9 actually.
you're still kind of
Overall, I
scared
think
of the ghost.
9
Like, she
closer to
goes
a year
down
at that
there,
point.
and she's like, oh, like, oh my god, she found him, and yeah, something like that. It was.
Well, she goes down, to be clear, so she goes down into a room she had never been in, she never knew existed, because there was a knob. Is it a doorknob that was missing? And there was no way to get in and out of it, and so she had found it. And toward that, building up to the reveal, she finally inserts the knob into the door, opens it. And first of all, I want to linger on
I'd
this
be
real
like,
quick.
you know what,
She
kid? I
opens
tried.
it,
I really
and then
did.
what you see is like this staircase
I'm
going
sorry.
down nothing but darkness.
Yeah.
At that point, I would have been like, bye, I'm getting out of here. Like, I'm not walking down a fucking dark staircase. Like, I'm not doing it. But anyway, she already obviously is like, oh well, I'm in this already. I have to find out what happened. And so she goes down like these really long stairs, and then she basically sees a basement room. She realizes that's the place that Tomas, the kid who died there a long time ago, that's his room. He finds a picture of him and his mom, who is now also dead, by the way, because we mentioned she was hit by a truck. And then she finds her son. And it's one of those situations where I was thinking, no, this isn't it. Because the way that it's presented immediately is she finds Simon alive and well, in a blanket. And it's like treated as like this triumphant moment that she finally, found him after such, adversity and all the stuff that happened that she had to overcome. And it's not immediately revealed, but you get a suspicion, at least I did while watching it, like,
It's too good to be true.
This is gonna take a really dark turn, isn't it? Like, because it didn't. It was doing a good job, I think for what the occasion would be, but I think deep down, I knew this is gonna go.
Laying there,
This
like,
isn't
what?
right. You're right. It's too good to be true. So she finds him basically there,
And it's like, by the time
the reason why you doubt it is
that your
because
brain
you
starts
begin
to go
think
like,
about it. Wait,
what?
9 months, and he's just
is when
there?
the movie reveals,
and he was there the
like,
whole time.
Because when she goes down there, it's like well lit, and it looks clean and nice, and it's him. And then all of a sudden it like snaps to reality, and it's just dark and cobwebs. And at that point I was like, oh fuck, oh no. And then she looks at, she's holding Tomas, and she looks, and you realize, not Tomas, Simon, and he's dead. And then she puts together everything that had happened and how it happened, and then going back and
not
going
Tomas,
like,
Simon.
oh wow, that's what that was. And it's so perfectly well executed, right?
Executed? Literally. Sorry, I didn't mean because I'm the execution joke. He was executed. The character was executed literally, or I guess he executed himself. But the execution of the sequence is so brilliantly because of how well it was set up. Because you're putting several pieces together. Because you think back to, well, the last fight they had, Simone and Laura, was that he wanted to show her Tomas's room. And then you're seeing kind of a flashback sequence of events, and there was this moment, and you're reminded that there was a moment where the camera lingered on the closet. There was a closet in between these two doors, underneath, I think, the staircase, I feel, or in a closet somewhere. And she heard banging near it. And then more to that, the constant noise of banging on the walls after.
And not
fact.
only that, he had
And
died.
then you realize
she heard him die.
The kid
when it was that very loud.
himself
I think she was in the wheelchair
in this basement,
and then boom, a loud
and he was there the whole
bang
time.
At the end. When he had,
and he died.
He was up against the door trying to open it, and he fell back over the stairs and just broke his neck and died. And it's such, for me anyway, when I saw it, it was such a hard whiplash, because banging, that's what fucking ghosts do, the banging on the walls and the creepy mask. The ghosts, they took them, there's no trace, it's obvious. And just the whole rug to be pulled right out from under you at the end. All that time she was determined to find him and bring him back, and he was already dead. He'd been dead from day one. It's heartbreaking. It's because what drove her was for the love of her son. And at the end of the road, to realize it was always going to end this way, it's heartbreaking.
Yeah. It is, and we mentioned several moments in the movie where they've been successful at creating not just something looking creepy, but something also being a tad bit morbid. Seeing the little boy's body like that, it had already began to decompose, and it was, oh God. It's one thing seeing a dead person, when they're they're made to look, as they used to. But
that's the thing. This film, rot, it's not like it's not a gory film. But it's a film that doesn't shy away from showing
to see that, honestly, and then of course
the reality. You know what I mean? Because when she got hit by a car, they fucking showed it. When she got her fingers fucked up, that shit hurt. Just watching it, yeah. They showed the dead children's bodies, and it's not a film that it's not like a slasher.
It hurt to watch, didn't it?
It's not anything like that revels in
the bodies in the bags,
gore or anything like that. But it just doesn't shy away from it, and because of that, it almost feels, it hits harder. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And then comes the ending. And I'm really interested to know how you felt about this ending.
It's real. That stuff
what
happens,
is,
and that's kind of where the real horror comes from.
A lot of this stuff was so well set up. At the very beginning, they talk about the lighthouse and how the lighthouse used to work. And they're just talking about that, back when she was an orphan there. She would see it and stuff like that. She just starts walking through.
That's right.
The house, I think. Oof, yeah.
And we all know the kind of shit that
your
happens
cup
at a
of tea.
lighthouse, right? Go watch the Robert Pattinson, William Dafoe movie. That's another horror movie with a brilliant production design or location. The lighthouse. It's a
fine wine.
Interesting horror movie.
Okay.
Not I think the straightforward.
You sip
one.
it. You smell it.
I didn't hate it.
Swash it in your mouth and then you spit it back out.
It's very much an acquired taste. It's not a
like
by
I
any
said,
means
sophisticated. Probably. It was on my
There's
top 10,
farts, masturbation, and nudity with mermaids.
But yeah, she's walking through the house, obviously, with dead little Simon.
There's a review on that movie somewhere, I think, on our feed, on Red Spotlight. Go look it up if you want to.
A shit ton of pills, and I think they were her sleeping pills. Yeah. Which again ties back, like she had trouble sleeping, so she had those pills. Like a lot of this, such a tight script, so well done. She takes it, and you don't see her die, but all of a sudden, the lighthouse is on, and what's his name? Her son, Simon, is awake, and he's okay, and the children are there, and they're okay,
right? Yeah.
And Tomas is there, and he's okay, and it's
Simon.
Simon's like, he tells her like, this was my dream, not my dream, my wish, for his birthday, I think. Or no, maybe it wasn't his birthday. At some point, they had something to do with wishes. And he says, like, this was my wish that, you could be here to take care of all of us and we'd all be together. And it's really this semi kind of heartwarming ending. But it's what's clear is she's just committed suicide. Along with... Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, she took literally the whole bottle of pills. And that's sad. And then immediately she's, I don't know, I guess in the spirit world or something, and then she wakes up with all the kids surrounded her. I think the execution of it was very successful in that my heart was warmed in a little. I mean, it is weird, right? Because she killed herself, and then she's holding her son's corpse, and then she wakes up, and everyone's fine. And then it was really especially, I guess, just I don't know, because like these were her friends.
That's why.
And then when they realize it's Laura, hey everyone, it's Laura. Can you believe it? And then she's come to take care of them. I guess seemingly for the end of time. I don't know. I mean, I don't know how ghost rules work, but it's treated, I know, like it's treated as if like she's kind of the savior. She's come at last to save the children. It's like Mary Poppins. A little bit. But it is basically a happy ending, even though a lot of basically everyone died. In that sense, I don't necessarily feel like I got tonal whiplash from it. Because I like the ending. I love happy endings. I mean, I'm all for it by all means. I guess I don't know where else you go after discovering your son's dead corpse in the bottom of a basement.
Yeah, I would say.
I guess you just cut the black and that's the movie. Like
obviously, I think it works.
And so, like, I feel like we're talking about Del Toro
because with that one, I never
this is
really
actually pretty similar to the ending of
questioned it.
Pan's Labyrinth. If I,
I
think
just
about
thought it was
now.
a very brilliantly done ending, and then also it's somewhat left up to interpretation, and it's what's weird with this one is it's just kind of like, yay, suicide, like
Right.
in a small way, you know. Yeah, she's murdered, and it's depending on how you feel. That's another thing too. Like it's more interpreted, you know, what the ending is.
Well, in the other one, I can think
Either
of, in Pan's Labyrinth, we were
it's
just talking
sad,
about the
but
little girl who's
somewhat
murdered.
bittersweet
basically.
because you think she actually died, and in her final moments, she views herself as having achieved, you know, whatever she was trying to achieve, or it's bittersweet because she ends up dying, but she does, you know, successfully make it back, you know, to the kingdom. But obviously she doesn't kill herself, right? Like, it's not like the reason she made it back was because she protected her brother, basically. It's not that she died. Whereas with this one, it's, oh yeah, no, it's cool, you can be back together, just kill yourself. It's a little weird. It wasn't perfect. Yeah, because it's like, oh, you're missing.
No,
your
it
dead
is.
Child. Just
die. It wasn't perfect,
and it's like,
obviously,
no, like that's not
a because you're kind of saying, well, all she had to do was kill herself. Which you don't want to encourage suicide. That's kind of the thing, right?
Yeah, and it's very
it
it's
is
very
heartbreaking.
Clearly,
I mean, she
the
didn't
story
want to live
about,
anymore.
Again,
And she killed
it's
herself.
a love story,
and I mean that you can't really blame her all that much for it, because like, fuck, after all of going through all that she went through, and then that's the end result, as to what you said.
Yeah.
Yeah. You also have the scene afterward with the husband, right, where he comes back to the house.
But just sort of smiling, like this idea of like
a little while, I think, after she's buried there. I feel both her and the son are buried there. And then he walks in, and he has that ending where
like the
clearly
ending
he's seeing
Hill
them,
House,
but we don't see them, and then just cuts to black,
where it's like a little bit of like, you want your cake and to eat it too, right? Like the horror of this, you know, the life being taken, but also you want that happy ending.
Yeah,
where they're
yeah.
There are some genuine connections, and with both, it just left me a little bit like,
interesting connection with both Hill House and with this.
I don't entirely know.
Pills
about
are involved
this one,
in the
Chief.
death of one of the people that would stay at the house as ghosts.
Yeah.
Like, what are you trying to say with this, you know? That kind of becomes an issue. I mean, of course, I have no problem with seeing the characters have a happy ending, considering all that they've gone through. And I think the ending, at least it worked for me. But you're right in that it did feel abrupt. Maybe that's part of it. But I also don't know, like, look, you and I have seen a lot of movies, and we've seen them execute a lot of different things. I love studying about film. I love learning, you know, what goes through directors and writers' minds, and they're crafting a story, and especially when they're on location or on the set, and they're, you know, filming it and going on and everything. But like with behind the scenes features, documentaries, or what have you, interviews, and I always just, all right, so if we're looking at this particular movie, what could have been done with the ending that you wanted with what the ending that we got anyway, for it to have felt less, I would say, abrupt and less thematically consistent.
No, because I think that
maybe
reveal
more
is
thematically
perfect.
consistent than what
Like that's
than what you got.
it's great. I wouldn't take that away.
And I don't know what you can do, because there really wasn't much
I
left
would
to do
just
at that
say
point in the
maybe
movie but end it. So what would
have
do you change the ending?
her have closure that doesn't rely on her killing herself, basically, because the ghosts are real, right? Like the ghosts are there. Maybe as she's sitting there, like or walking around, crying, with the kid, she sees, as she's holding his body, she sees the ghost of him, walk up, and maybe they share a moment or whatever, some closure shit. And maybe she stays and reopens as she was originally going to do the orphanage. Or she wasn't going to do an orphanage. It was supposed to be like for special needs kids or something like that. Yeah. And she chooses to, never leave the house and kind of overlook, and same as the other ending, she decides to stay and overlook and take care of the children, only they're ghosts and she's not, that kind of way. My only real issue with the ending is just it's a little weird to be like, suicide, that was the solution. And I know that I know the movie isn't intentionally going that route, but it kind of,
No, it's not at all trying to say that. It's one of these. What happens is one of these issues that is created as a result of you making a certain decision. Of course, intent.
Same thing.
Obviously, no reasonably minded person, that excludes Trump supporters and QAnon people, by the way. I just wanted to get that in there. Or fascists, clearly. Conservatives. Okay, I should stop. No, but in all seriousness here, I don't think any reasonably minded person would, infer that the intent of the movie or the creators of the movie was to suggest that suicide is great and all, it's just one of those things that can accidentally
it
be
is one of those things
when
where
you make an executive decision like this. And a lot of movies have
you can see this in a lot of
like
films,
these,
right?
Where you can create certain issues
pretty clear that the filmmakers didn't intend,
but by accident,
for their film to come off in a certain way or maybe support this or that. I mean, that's another thing.
Rian Johnson didn't intend for his movie to be hated by literally half of Star Wars fans. Who goes into a movie? Who thinks that directors go out of their way to make a movie for people to hate them? Except for Adam Sandler in his Halloween movie, because he threatened to make a bad movie. Because he was denied.
I mean, more
nomination,
specifically,
if I recall correctly, for Uncut Gems. But aside from him,
they might sometimes
what person who makes movies goes out of the way to make a bad movie
within the text of their film.
No one does.
They
just
didn't
these things
mean
happen
to imply, right? Like it just kind of, and I think that's basically what happened here. But yeah, no. Overall, it's really good. Like it's. I feel like if it was an American English film,
right,
which would be remembered.
Right.
Yeah, talked about a lot more and remembered more within the States.
It'd be talked about more. And it's interesting because, we've talked about
American
how the
horror films, at least.
2010s were kind of this wonderful revival for the horror genre. And in many ways, that's, the decade prior, the 2000s, was not a great decade for horror movies.
You know who was killing it in the early 2000s?
Right, yeah.
The Japanese.
So, if had this been
because you had
released
The Ring
in America or in American language,
the Ring is a
English
remake
film,
of the original.
this would have been maybe
Ringo
one of the only ones
Japanese
that was good
film
of that decade.
The Grudge.
Who were they?
Dark Waters. Like there was a lot of. I think like the early 2000s was when there was a lot of Japanese horror that kind of blew up. And then you even got a lot of American
that one got a
remakes
lot of talk. I remember The Grudge.
That were usually worse. The only one that was, I think, very good was The Ring. Gore Verbinski directed the. Oh, okay. Yeah, go ahead and say it.
Great, Gore Verbinski. But yeah, anything else to say? Because there was one other thing I wanted to mention. It's not about the movie, but one of the actors that was in the movie. It's actually kind of emotional, surprisingly, seeing this actor's face. Because it's one of those things where when you see a face and you're kind of like thrown back into like a previous life of yours. Or like a previous version of you that, was from like decades.
Admit
ago.
You're old.
In my case, years and years ago. Not decades old, anyway. A couple, not several decades. That's pushing it. Quarter of a century. We're all old, and we're all dying. And I'm not sure how familiar you are with this one. There was a section in the movie where Laura goes to see this presentation.
Oh yeah.
The seance people that come into her house and set up all of these cameras and help her get through it. I'm not referring to the woman. I'm referring to in the sequence in when she discovers them, the guy that's doing the presentation with the bow tie. When I saw his face, I was that isn't who I think it is, right? Because in actuality, in today, he looks a lot different than when he did. In the making of that movie, he lost a lot of weight. And I known that from. Well, I'll get to it when I get to it. But when I saw his face, I was like, this cannot be who I think it is. And then, but it wasn't just the face; it was the voice. And something rung a bell. And like, no, this can't be. So I looked it up and it's Edgar Vivad. And I don't know how exposed you were, Peter, to Spanish language television when you were a kid.
Never watched it.
In particular, to the works
it's one of those things, as you like to say,
comic
that just culturally
Mexico,
is so huge,
known as Chespirito,
that I just like. I've seen it so much that I like know what it is, and I know it, and I've seen it play on a lot of televisions, but it was never something that I ever like watched. But like I know it,
right?
If that makes sense,
right?
Cultural osmosis.
Mm-hmm. No, yeah. It'd be very difficult to grow up in a Spanish-speaking household and not know who it is I'm referring to. But Chespirito is a very legendary comic in Mexico, and in particular, the programs that he would produce on television aimed at children, aimed at young children, but they're for all audiences if you'd like. It's a very the humor in these. It's very hard for me to classify the kind of humor into all the categories that there are, but they're very much aimed at small children. And I did grow up on these shows in particular, and I'm sure you would know of this one, Peter. El Chavo del Ocho was kind of the main one. And the actor that I am referring to that was in The Orphanage, Edgar Vivar, played the character El Señor Barriga, which was the landowner, basically, or the landlord that would come by and collect rent for the tenants in La Vecindad, which was the main location of this television show, which, by the way, one of the longest running television shows of all time, running from the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, all the way into the early 2000s. It's basically Saturday Night Live, but we're talking about this almost the same group of characters, the same cast. It's one of those shows where it's the same every week. It's the same. They recycle a lot of the same ideas. They recycle a lot of the same storylines, but they just they kept making them through the years because it was so popular. And it was really special seeing his face, because that came from a really treasured memory of my childhood, because I would watch that program with my family. It was like one of the only few television shows where we would all watch together and enjoy.
Cast members.
And so seeing his face pop up was kind of something special for me, and it brought back a lot of memories at once.
No, that's really cool.
So yeah, he's actually one of the remaining the cat. Right, the cat. Most of them are still, I think, living, but he's really good. So I just didn't expect that to happen. It was just kind of like being blasted into your past, and I've in the last week I've been in this kind of weird melancholy kind of mood, more and more. So it was kind of like, fitting, I guess you could say, for the week that I'm currently living. But overall, beautiful movie. Honestly,
it's good.
Sad, heartbreaking, but also joyous.
I mean,
in
yeah.
terms of
I would leave it there
in a way.
That's
but
that was
The Orphanage should be talked about more for sure.
And that was our
it's a great film.
Ghost-Tober Boo-Tacular. For To the Table. Yes.
For To the Table, we still have one more to go for Red Spotlight. For those not aware, we also have reviews for Hill House and Blind Manor with our Boo-Tacular this month, as well as an audio commentary for The Shining. But to wrap things up, we've got an audio commentary for Dr. Sleep. So that's going to be so much fun on Red Spotlight over there. And with Red Spotlight, and this is a big reason for why this movie was saved to wrap up the To the Table portion of this month.
During the month of November,
Guillermo del Torro was producer for this movie. And what are we doing?
Consumption,
Peter,
and discussion
Guillermo del Toro
of
in
the
Red
entire
in the month of November
of said genius Guillermo del Toro. And we're doing the whole 9 yards from 1993's Chronos all the way to 2017's The Shape of Water. We're going Chronos, Mimic, The Devil's Backbone, Blade 2, Hellboy, Pan's Labyrinth, Hellboy 2, The Golden Army, Pacific Rim, Crimson Peak, and then, of course, The Shape of Water. Best Picture winning Shape of Water. All the way back to that, first the Chronos, the got him on the map all the way to him and his defining career moment, winning both Best Director
The Best
and
Picture,
Best
winning
Picture with The Shape of Water. So yeah, it's gonna be fun. I adore the fuck out of Guillermo del Toro. He's great. He's mm-hmm.
Yeah. We're doing this in a similar vein as last year's Scorsese Files, as we called them. We're doing 3 installments in the month of November. One of the episodes will feature 4 films, and the other 2 will feature 3 each. And I believe we're doing 10 movies in total, which you just named, the 10 Guillermo del Toro directed films, not produced.
Wars films, yeah.
I'm thinking we might make this an annual thing.
No, this year
with November.
I think we'll be okay.
Although we may want to move it up, depending on how awards go, because we always have to save December for catching up for awards films. Yeah, but I don't think it'll be difficult this year to catch up. With movies that we desperately want to see, because there really are none. Kind of less than a handful at this point. So. A very, I think, opportune time to talk about Del Toro. A very, I would say, decorated
not only
filmmaker.
That, Guillermo del Toro's next film
from the
is
industry,
scheduled
yes,
for release in 2021.
But I think also just by film fans worldwide.
For Netflix,
one of the most cherished filmmakers.
First
when people talk about
animated
him,
film
they love this man.
Of Pinocchio. So, yeah. Partly produced by the Jim Henson Company.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. That's gonna
but
be
that
something.
didn't pan out.
Well, the first...
But, get it?
Interesting. That's very
it was
interesting.
Hook.
I think initially we were going to do Spielberg this year, because West Side Story was going to come out, right?
So you want to make this an annual thing? We're gonna have to find. Well,
nope.
There'll always be a director.
Nope.
Out there.
Yeah, in any way, I guess you could say. It's supposed to come out next December, so.
Yeah.
I feel there'll always be enough. I mean, with Spielberg, we may have to do 2 months because there's literally like 30 movies. Depends on the filmmaker, right? Like we did it with Scorsese because we wanted to spice things up. We wanted to get into more talking about film, less of the news, and so that's why it was created. And then we have an opportunity with Del Toro. We want to pick filmmakers that have upcoming projects. So with Scorsese, there was The Irishman. We had picked Spielberg because of West Side Story, but we think we ended up doing Del Toro because it also depends on what mood we're in, right? What we want to talk about, what works we want to explore. And Del Toro is a unique filmmaker. In a lot of varieties,
also,
we're going to be talking about
like,
he's
very
unique in the
like,
sense that his works
how you describe
have a look to him,
artiste,
a style,
but
and
he's also very much
many of them may even be in a foreign language, so it's a different experience.
He's not full of himself. Like he loves the mainstream shit, goofy shit too. Like he'll go from making these like beautiful gothic fairy tales that are very adult and they win fucking all these awards, to Pacific Rim, which is just fucking, he loves seeing Godzilla, old-fashioned Godzilla monster movies where they punch each other, right? And he just wanted to make his own, but the craft is the same, right? But he's one of those few directors who very much
it's a range
moves from both. Yeah. So that's also why I love him too, because that's the shit I enjoy. Like I enjoy a good dumb action film the same way I enjoy,
From The Shape of Water to
Yeah.
Hellboy. I mean, damn.
So no, it's gonna be fun, guys.
Yeah.
Vote.
A serious drama. Well, that's gonna wrap it up for To the Table. For our Boo-Tacular. Yes, vote. Otherwise, the real Boo-Tacular is on the horizon. I don't anticipate we'll come back for the remainder of 2020, but with this being a horrible year in everybody's lives, it ended up being a great year, I think, for To the Table. It's a great programming year. And I anticipate that, because we had planned on doing To the Table initially, as was promoted, more than just like 1 month every few months.
Well,
but things
depending
got away
on
from
how,
us, and I'm sure that a lot of the previous programming that we had planned for Feel Good February and whatever March
depending on what happens,
is going to remain
come
for the
November,
following calendar year, I assume, to get
Feel Good February could turn into January.
Our lives are.
the mood will be there for it. And then, yeah. Here's hoping. If not, I may just go into a hole and just never come out.
Okay, right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, especially since we don't
I think
know
people
when
need to
movie
realize at
theaters
this point,
will return. So if we
well,
need
whoever fucking watches this,
To the Table to come back out of necessity,
shut the fuck up,
just to keep ourselves entertained, then
our
we will do
programming
that.
is very much it's very
anyway,
much along the lines of our mental health, and whatever we're feeling is whatever way way that the wind is blowing for our brains is the way we will go.
Yeah. That's the truth right there. Well, with that, I want to thank all of you for listening this year To the Table. Reminder, you can catch our other podcasts on our network feed with Red Spotlight Entertainment, The Fantasy Fair, and Bond and Beyond, and all those other ones that you love to listen to, audio commentaries and all. Thank you, Peter, for giving us a wonderful year of programming. I've so enjoyed being able to do this show, and I can't wait until the next one. So until then, bye-bye.